One really big area that I am really focused on is just the absolute lie and the myth of drug treatment, of the current state of drug treatment. It's outrageous that it has been allowed to continue unchanged. This antiquated system. It's even worse than psychology. Psychology's pretty bad too, but drug treatment is truly, it's incredible what's going on. They tell you drug treatment is an answer. They say send if your loved one is addicted, send them to drug treatment. That'll be the answer. Drug treatment's not an answer. It is not an answer, and it might even make it worse. In fact, in Noah's case, I think it did make it worse. I think it was harmful, especially the first time he went, because it was truly outrageous what happened. I was so scared, and my son was on drugs. He said he wanted to go get some help, and so I did my research, and I found that it was supposed to be the top place for kids under 18 that had co-occurring disorders, so depression and mental health issues along with addiction. At that time, the depression and the mental health issues were far bigger a problem than the addiction. What had caused this all was that my ex-husband had started a custody battle against me all of a sudden when they're in their teen years, and he's just doing the whole attacking thing. He was hoovered me, and was doing the attacking all over again, like a complete instant replay of what he had done about 8 years earlier. And, this time he wasn't getting anywhere because I was a lot smarter. He wasn't winning. I was beating him at everything he did, but it still took a long time, and he still was doing it. And it was still super stressful on the kids. I mean, he even kidnapped them at one point. It was just crazy. My then fiance offered to pay for this really expensive place because it was the best place and all this stuff. Supposed to be the best place. And he was there with A-list celebrity children. I mean, you just wouldn't believe who he was roommates with. He's dealt with insurance, he had to pay cash. But they get him in there, and they diagnose him with CPTSD. And they tell me before he goes there that they have treatments for all this stuff. They don't have treatments for that. Their treatment is pharmaceuticals. They give him pills. They give him drugs. Well, that was his solution. He was giving himself drugs. He didn't need them for that, right? So, and they didn't understand our personality disorders. So when I took him there, he said, please just make sure I don't ever get left alone with my dad. Because his dad was coming down there, He had been at boarding school in California for an entire school year. His dad didn't come one single time. But now that we were in the midst of this custody battle, he was all the time showing up at this treatment center that we were paying for and acting like he was just this poor guy that couldn't afford to help pay for it. And also a simple guy that couldn't understand, didn't understand anything that was going on, and, acted all like everyone was so smart, and the treatment people loved. He was completely pandering to their egos. And there was this young woman who was about 10 years younger than me, probably, in charge of this whole thing. And I tell her about his personality disorder, and I say, his dad has got antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, and Noah's requested not to be left alone with him, and I want to make sure that, I protect him. And they don't do that. They don't honor Noah's request. They don't honor my request. And this woman is completely threatened by me because I'm questioning the things she's doing. I'm questioning the pharmaceuticals that go to him. He ends up, because he's just puffed up. He's gained a ton of weight. He can't stay awake. So basically, he ends up leaving this place after 4 months, and he has gained, I think it was 80 pounds. And he can't stay awake. He's on more drugs and more doped up than he was when he got there, by far. And meanwhile, and we're still dealing with all these outrageous bills because they don't, they don't deal with insurance. And I mean, to this day, I think there's like $10,000 still that we're still owed by reimbursement that I'm still fighting for. And the insurance company is telling me it wasn't necessary. I'm like, really? Is that true? Because he's dead now. I think maybe treatment was necessary. It just, I mean, the outrageous things that happened. But this drug treatment center, they were totally ill-equipped to help him. Completely. Their psychologist, a psychiatrist diagnosed him with CPTSD, but they offered him no treatment, no trauma treatment at all. In all the treatment that he was in 5 years of treatment, and he was in inpatient treatment. That was the second longest. The longest time was the very last one. He was in the treatment for 9 months, inpatient treatment. And then he was in various different times for 30 days, 60 days, and outpatient treatment as well. Not once did he get any treatment for trauma. And these are simple treatments. They're simple, available treatments. And even at more than you would pay to have him at the Four Seasons Hotel, paying outrageous fees, he didn't get any EMDR. He didn't learn tapping techniques. They didn't even really talk about it. And he was way more traumatized. They traumatized him there. So it was, really awful. Any treatment program based on the 12 steps, which is most of them, is a problem because the 12 steps are shaming and moralistic, and they're just completely wrong. Therapy was never really that successful, but where it was successful was with middle-aged white men in the 50s who were alcoholics, middle class. It was not meant for the heroin addicts of 2016. It's the same. It's not modified. It's not changed. There is no other population that would be this underserved that we would let that happen. Can you imagine that we had any other problem that was being treated with a 90% failure rate since the 40s or 50s, and everyone was promoting it like this was the best we could do, and everyone was promoting it and treating it like it was an answer? No one tells you that it's not an answer. You, when you're sending your loved one there, or you're going there, you think it's an answer. And it's built in that if it's not an answer, it's your fault. If it doesn't work for you, it's your fault. It's the most outrageous thing. When we were doing all this, I was doing everything that was possible because I just wanted to help him so bad, and I wanted to give him every opportunity to get past this. And I believed that by doing that, by getting him to the top treatment center, that I was giving him the best chances. No one ever addressed trauma. It's like, you can't, drugs were a solution for him. Drugs weren't the problem. The problem was the trauma. And, so it wasn't even, the problem wasn't depression, the problem wasn't anxiety, the problem wasn't addiction. The depression and the anxiety and the ADD and the flashbacks and all that stuff, those were symptoms of trauma. And the addiction was what developed because of the solution. He was self-medicating. He was self-medicating. So you can't just take away the medication. It's like you break your leg and you just take away the cast and the pain medicine and expect the person to be okay. You have to fix the problem. And not once in all these expensive, whether it was expensive or it was inexpensive or what, not once did we ever get at the problem. The other thing that we did, that we had to we went to Costa Rica to do, was Iboga, which is plant medicine. It's not legal in this country. And if I had known, I just didn't know enough. I think that was a good solution, but we need to follow up with it more. He needed to have ongoing, second, they have maybe a follow-up time, and then maybe daily low doses. A really good day by Ayelet Waldman. And she discovered that microdosing with LSD was a cure for her depression. And of course, she had to break the law to do it and all that stuff. So that's what this book is about, is how, microdosing on these hallucinogenic drugs is proving to be effective in depression, addiction, things like that. So I thought that was really great because it really takes it into the mainstream, because she was not a drug addict. She was just a depressed mom. This morning I took LSD. The table I'm sitting at right now is not breathing. My keyboard is not exploding in psychedelic fireworks, lightning bolts shooting from the letters R and P. I am not giddy and frantic or zoned out with bliss. I feel no transcendent sense of oneness with the universe or with the divine. On the contrary, I feel normal. To a new conversation about how we're going to deal with trauma, addiction, depression. It's all connected. And Gabor Mate is, he is like my hero. He's a lot of people's hero, but he's a well-known, he's an MD. He eventually started working with the drug addicts in Vancouver. Became, this huge advocate for, it's a problem of trauma. And until we deal with trauma, we can't help anybody. And it's absolutely true. It's just, and the fact that that is earth-shattering, that figure that out. When these treatment centers are charging outrageous amounts of money, they know they're failing. They know that they're not helping anybody. I didn't know that. I don't think the parents sending their kids there know that. But and it was outrageous to me that it wasn't until my son had died that I realized that it was just a big joke, that treatment centers aren't helping people. They're failing almost everyone. And that it's allowed to go on, and that's just the best we can do. And what it says to me is, it says that we consider drug addicts, they're the ultimate, in the last group that we're just free to discriminate against. And it's only because of their particular addiction, because most everybody has got some kind of addiction. It's just the drug addictions are really just, they get really discriminated against, and then of course because we criminalize them, it becomes this big, it just sets them apart, to be discriminated against, to be considered criminals, to have the way, the approach that we have to it is just so ineffective and destructive, and it's all failed. It all has to be completely reformed. And that's what compelled me to come on here and to tell my story and to start talking about narcissistic abuse, get that out in the open, because it's also outrageous that the only people that know about that are the victims. The only people that know about that are the victims, and everybody else seems to not know that it's going on, or seems to be in complete denial about it. And so I really believe that this is one reason Donald Trump had to be president, is because narcissism is now going to be something that we all know about.